Hi guys, welcome to The Divine Witch, and I'm your host, The Divine Witch. Today we're going to deep dive into necromancy. I'm going to make a disclaimer. This is the first time I've ever done this on a video, but I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. If you watch this video and decide to go ahead and do necromancy within your own path, there is a few warnings that I do want to give. One, I am not responsible for the actions of anybody who is watching this video. This is an informational video. Anything that you take from it and you implement it in the real world or into your life or into your practice is a result of your own doing, and therefore I do not hold any responsibility or reliability for anything that you do here on out. With that being said, I do not recommend this for new practitioners, and always make sure to abide by the laws and the regulations of your county, country, etc. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive in to necromancy. Hey guys, now that's out of the way, I want to take this time to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Along with another thing I do want to point out that you're also going to see within this video. All the comments in this video are going to be disabled. For the reason being, when it comes to the topic of necromancy, it's a very heated topic. And this is my own personal practice and my own opinions when it comes to dealing with necromancy. So to avoid any disruptions on my channel, or to avoid any heated discussions based on my own personal practice by other practitioners or by those who may be misinformed, I am turning off the comments. So hopefully you understand. I've never done this on my channel, but it is one of those topics of heated debate. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I believe is necromancy. To me, necromancy is multifaceted. It deals with spirits. It deals with mediumship. It deals with working with energies, entities that may be both light and dark and neutral. It also is about taking control. It is also being able to talk and to predict using those spirits within your personal practice. Now, with that being said and that being out of the way, I wanted to talk to you about necromancy as a whole. When we say the term necromancy, necromancy itself is a broadened term, kind of like paganism or witchcraft. Even though it could be considered witchcraft, they're not all the same when it comes to necromancy. Just like every other path that has a magical element to it is not the same. I personally like to break down necromancy into 3 different categories. The first is the classic, the second is the standard, and the third is the supernatural. Now, I do want to let you know, this is my personal path. So, take it with a grain of salt. Make it true to you. Look and deep dive more than just in my video. But this is my response to what those are and what they mean. So for the first one, which is the classic, I do have this written down so you're going to see that. So that's like the mediumship. This is like communicating with the spirits, demons, or whatever energies, whether it's something that I've manifested personally within my life or something that has always been and always will be. This is where you can communicate. Now, most would put this under a divination or just under the term mediumship as well. But mediumship and anything dealing with any types of spirits or the dead is considered necromancy. And if you think otherwise, well, in my opinion, you're mistaken. Now, everybody has their own opinion, and no two witches witch alike. So always keep that in mind. And you see things how you wish to see them within your personal practice. The second thing that I want to talk about when it comes to necromancy is the second type of necromancy, which is the standard. Now, the standard is more of what you would expect when you hear the term necromancy. This is where you would use magic. Some would consider it a dark magic, to control a soul or to use that energy and manipulate it or reanimate it back into life. Now, as far as reanimation of a soul or bringing something back from the dead, it is very broad in the terminology. Just because you bring something back to life does not mean that it's going to be in the same form it was when it was alive. It also means that there is a possibility it could be in the same form. So it just depends on what practice what region and where you're at. Also, when it comes to dealing with the second standard, there is also what we call the mind control. This aspect where literally you are controlling someone like a puppet. Not just causing them pain or bringing them health, but physical control from every waking moment of this entity, spirit, or person, or animal, or object's life. Just so you know. For the third type, which is the supernatural, this is where we get into the realm of the things that came before us. The stories of vampires, the stories of werewolves, the stories of creatures that just don't seem natural. This is where, one, we either call on those spirits and use them or control them to do our bidding, or is also where we bring them into existence. This is where you can make or take different pieces of different supernatural beings and create something new with that. Some people may call those a minion. Some people may call them a servant. Some may just call them their toy. Depends on the practitioner and the connection that they build with the object, individual, spirit, or energy that they either manifest or bring towards them. So keep that in mind. Now, I know this seems like a very somber tone, but when it comes to necromancy, it is something that I'm serious about, and I don't tend to talk about it in public forums, for the reason being that when it comes to necromancy, it's got a lot of bad vibrations, just because people don't understand it, and depending on who is in control at the time, it can be a very dangerous weapon in the hands of someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Not to the people that they're doing it to, but to themselves as well. See, when we talk about learning and we talk about studying of things, it's easy to say, well, I want to be this and I want to be the most powerful witch. But when you start dealing with spirits who are ancient and older than you or time itself, you are really barking up a territory that is not for the novice witch. And I never say, to any witch, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. But when it comes to this, there's a very thin line of being knowledgeable and being a fool. And it doesn't always start with a good new journey, just so you know. So with that being said, there's going to be questions of, well, how do you get started? What books would you recommend? The tradition in which I follow my necromancy, which I will not disclose here to anybody, really. I didn't learn from a book. It was hands-on. It was given to me. And with that being said, I can't give you a book that is going to push you into the right direction for you to be able to gain that knowledge, because this book that I gained, well, the knowledge that I gained did not come from a book. It came from word of mouth, from teaching, from years, decades, centuries of work being put into it. So with that being said, I won't be able to guide you when it comes to what to read. All I can say is follow your intuition. Follow what feels right for you. And always remember, if you're planning to go after a certain spirit or a certain entity, learn everything that you can about that entity. More than just going and doing a simple online Google search or YouTube search. Actually go out, get a replicable book from a good author or several authors, and feel what feels right for you in your personal practice. Or reach out to a mentor. There's mentors all over, and there's a broadened community out there. But when it comes to certain things like this too, you also have to protect yourself. Because one, you're dealing with different energies and different forces. Two, there might be practitioners out there around you who are also doing necromancy, and when they see you doing it, they're not going to be happy. So when it comes to dealing with certain aspects of necromancy other than mediumship or communicating with spirits that everybody knows about, I would not disclose your personal practice to anyone other than yourself, possibly your coven, or to your significant other. Now, with that being said, how do you do necromancy? Like I said, necromancy is a variety. It is a different type of magic. And each thing is done differently, and there's certain things that you would expect with necromancy and certain things you wouldn't. And then when you start working with specialty energies or spirits, you have to cater to that spirit. So there is no one-all, be-all, this is the formula, this will always be the formula, because that formula will change with every energy and everything that you try to manifest. So please keep that in mind. So with that being said, I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that you might have heard that are associated with necromancy. The first one being graveyards or graveyard dirt. Now, the reason that we use this is because that's where we take our dead. That is the last step within this life that body will take. And that's where it will rest until it is consumed back into the earth and given its energy to be replenished so something new can grow. So with that being said, you'll have people who have family cemeteries or graveyards. You'll have public graveyards that you can go to as well. You have some that are known for having magical workings, or because there was a certain practitioner of a certain path where people will lay things or take stones or rocks or dirt or whatever it may be from that area. And when it comes to graveyards, I never suggest to anybody to, go grave robbing, because one, that's a disrespect to the spirits you're trying to work with, especially if you're dealing with a human spirit. As it comes with dirt is a little bit more easier to acquire. You can either do it from someone you know or someone you researched, or you can do it from the entrance gate. Now, the entrance gate, when it comes to graveyard dirt, is like, in my mind, I always see it like entering the underworld. That threshold where you're about to visit your dead. So that would be another thing that you could use the dirt from. Now, I could go into an hour discussion when it comes to the topic of graveyard dirt, the different things that you can do with it, how you can manifest it, and because the graveyard dirt itself, that's just one piece of the puzzle. And that's one thing that I think gets lost when you're talking about it. The graveyard dirt, acquiring it is the first step. Then there's other steps to be followed after you acquire it. You always give thanks and you always give tribute whenever you take something from a grave, aka dirt, not bones, not bodies, dirt. Just putting that out there, because unfortunately some people will take this and misconstrue it and go crazy. So the next thing that we're going to be talking about is hair, bone, teeth, organs, blood, urine, and feces. Because these are different parts that can be, and some do use, within their necromancy. Now, as far as the hair, the nails, the teeth, the blood, some can use it from themselves, some can use it from others, some can use it from animals. It just really depends on what that practitioner is going to use. Same thing goes for urine, same thing goes for feces as well. Normally you want to acquire something that was the person. Now, one of the traditions in my family that they used to do is like when the baby would first get their hair cut, you would take that clipping and you would save it, put it into a baby book or something like that. But you can also do that throughout your life. Like whenever you get a haircut, you can keep the hair, use it with any magical practice, make a doll of yourself to heal yourself, and so forth and so on. You can add your own blood to signify the bond between you and that, thing, object, or whatever it is. So when it comes to those types of materials, it just depends on what you're wanting. What's the goal that you're trying to achieve. But please be smart when it comes to anything dealing with you and a connection, because those connections last more than just this lifetime, and keep that in mind. Now, when it comes into feeding the spell is something that should be done no matter if you're doing regular spell work or if you're creating an entity or feeding an entity, no matter what it is. Now, sometimes this is done by liquor, spitting it onto it, sometimes pouring it onto it, sometimes it's a mixture of herbs, sometimes it's a mixture of urine, sometimes it's a mixture of feces, sometimes it's a mixture of all different types of things into one. It just depends on that spirit and what that spirit thrives on. Now, some of these may not seem appeasing to you, but what is not appeasing to us does not mean that it won't be appeasing to the spirit that you're calling upon or using within your magic. So with that being said, the next thing that we should talk about is dolls, figurines, puppets, inanimate objects in the day-to-day life. You're probably wondering, well, how does this have anything to do with this? And it does, because if you've ever heard or seen the shows or even read about different objects being possessed or having a possession over them, there's a few different reasons that happens. One, because trauma happened and the soul moved over. Or two, because something was placed into that object and it was given its own soul, its own purpose. See, anything can be created from energy, and once that energy is created, it can't be destroyed. It can only be transformed. So if it is still in that vessel and it remains in that vessel, that is where it will lay. If that vessel gets broken or destroyed, then that will allow it to free roam. That's why sometimes you have issues such as house possessions, people possessions, and things like that. Because depending on the person, depending on the background of the object itself and where it came from, not everything stays where it's supposed to stay. Do you get what I'm saying? So these are the things that I kind of wanted to go over with you guys. It is a very broad spectrum, but I do feel like what I've given you is giving you a good start when it comes to necromancy and working towards this part of your craft. Now, like I said in the beginning, just be careful what you do, because once you bring something in, it's a lot harder to get rid of it, and some of these things will not go away. So be wise, be careful when you are doing this. Also, do not go digging up people. No. I'm just putting that out there because I know there's one idiot who's going to watch this video and be like, I'm going to go grave robbing, yay. No. Dumb. No. That's my dog puking because we know you're going to do it because you're stupid. With that being said, you can, and this is one thing that if you're looking for something like that, you can request certain things to be done to either your body or the body of a loved one, as long as it is written down in paper and is legalized. Now, depending on where you're at and what country you're in and the laws, depends on how much you can get away with. Now, when it comes to buying bones of animals are a little bit more easier to come by than the bones of humans. They are very expensive, and most of them you're going to find come from either Mexico or a foreign land that is not in the U.S. Now, you can buy them, you can use them in your work for mind control, manipulation, to communicate with spirits and things like that. If you're looking for a more authentic, natural conduit, so to speak. So just kind of keep that in mind. I think the last time, I think it depends on a lot of factors, the age, the area, how well it's still intact and things like that. Another thing that I would suggest also, if you're going to put anything into an object, a doll or whatever it may be, and you do not have somebody who knows the whole history of that object, there's a few things I want you to do. One, always write down a journal for somebody and leave it behind with those objects, close to those objects. So if something does happen to you, old age, whatever, they have the information of what these objects are. Or two, Dismantle them before your passing if you know it's happening. Or 3, bury them in hollow ground. Now, the third option isn't always one that can be given. There is also a fourth option. You can give it to someone who runs either a haunted museum or an oddity shop with the information as well and pass it on. Some will pass it on to practitioners if they don't pass it on to family. So this is just my opinion. This is how I practice and things like that. If this is a video that you liked and you did enjoy and you would like to see more, since the comments are disabled, hit the like, hit the dislike. If we got more likes within the next 3 months, I will make a second part. If not, then I will leave this be. If I get backlash from this video, I will put it into private because I am not here for anybody's amusement. I am here to share my path, and that is it. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please remember to be safe within your personal practice. And always remember, no two witches witch alike.